Last summer, a good friend and I embarked on a backpacking trip through the White Mountain National Forest in New Hampshire. As fairly experienced day hikers, we felt comfortable in the Whites for our inaugural overnight trip. While planning, my buddy Ellis figured we could hike back to a country campsite to make our first wilderness night a little more fun. I wasn't going to disagree. Beautiful views, historic trails, and a protected night in the dry river wilderness. I was stoked to say the least. Before any hiking trip I do, I always conduct a little internet research on the trails or shelters that I will be coming across. Throughout the mid to late 1900s, there were a series of these lean-tos up and down the dry river wilderness meant for backpackers or through hikers really looking to escape the crowd in more popular areas of forest. Though as time went on and the Forest Service had other more pressing matters, many of these shelters were dismantled, except Dry River Shelter Number 3, the last remaining shelter in this wilderness zone. On the morning of our hike, I met Ellis at the trailhead, and we set off. The sky was overcast, bringing it with a dense fog throughout the forest. The weather left us with nearly no visibility. So, there went our stunning views. At least the trail consisted of prime, technical New England rock scrambling alongside the Amonoosuc River. Ellis and I made it up to the Presidential Ridge, stopping by the Lakes of the Clouds. The hut was filled with day hikers, backpackers, and through hikers all socializing together. We were even rewarded with some sun and a brief glimpse of the dry river valley on the summit of Mount Monroe before the fog rolled back in. With dwindling views and a stiff wind, Ellis and I hustled tree line down to the Dry River Shelter Number 3, our home for the night. Once we dropped off the ridge into the valley, we entered the wilderness zone where rangers patrolled sparingly. Time to really be alone in the wild. As we trekked into the wilderness, all signs of civilization disappeared, and the trail was densely overgrown. Although it had been raining all week, there were no footprints in the mud either. At least we would be having some relaxing isolation, I figured. After about an hour or so of descending, Ellis spotted the lean-to just as our legs were asking for relief. A gorgeous old timber structure with a well-used fire pit along a cold mountain river. Pristine camping. As we settled in and explored the site, I found a small boundary notebook nestled in the corner of the structure. On the cover, someone wrote, Dry River Shelter Number 3. Out of curiosity, I opened it, but found nothing more than a lone man's name scribbled onto the first page and a date. Just your standard camping log. Oddly though, the man signed the book the previous day. We saw no footprints or signs of human or even animal disturbance on the trails, or here at the shelter. Rain can wash away tracks, but not all signs of animal life. Something felt off to me. I showed it to Ellis, who found it curious, but thought nothing more of the single name. He convinced me the man was probably a hiking veteran and a professional at L&T. I bought into Ellis's thoughts on the situation in order to ease my mind. As the sun set, we started a roaring fire alongside the riverbank. Ellis commented how quiet the location was, having not seen another soul beyond the chirps of birds since leaving the Crawford Path. The silence was eerie, but we figured that city life desensitized us to the wild. The sun was setting and we grew tired with the darkness. Ellis took the lean-to and I spent the night in my tent. Sleep came quickly after hiking 8+ miles with 20 pounds on my back, but this didn't last long. A brutally sharp slapping noise woke me up. The only thing I could compare the noise to would to be someone swinging a 2x4 onto a tree or snapping a thick branch. I figured it was a bear searching for our food bag hanging in a tree some 20 to 50 yards away. Nothing out of the ordinary for New Hampshire. Sleep overtook me once again, and I remember waking up to the sun rising over the peaks. I stumbled out of my tent to see Ellis also waking up slowly. As we made our morning oats and coffee, I wandered around the site again to see if I could find the marks the bear left. Instead, I noticed something odd. The small notebook was open. I swear that I put that thing back where I found it, which involved closing it and putting it in the back corner of the shelter. I most certainly didn't leave it open on the floor. "Hey Ellis, were you checking out this camp log last night?" "Nah, passed out, man. It's not like there's anything to read anyway." "You sure?" I commented, as I bent over to pick it up. The lone hiker's name was not so lonely anymore. At least 20 more names filled the pages. The lone traveler whose name was originally on the first page could now be found several pages deep into the notebook. I tossed it to Ellis, whose face instantly dropped the second his mind registered what was on the page. Great. Now I knew it wasn't just some dehydration delusion of the previous day. "Dude, we must have been seeing things last night. There's no way we could have missed all these names. How the hell could we?" Ellis said. This is when I began to tell Ellis about the slapping noise during the night. I received nothing other than instant denial. These sounds were not the result of some hooligans or backward crazies harassing us. Ellis was convinced. Rather sternly, he commented, "It's a bear, Jack. It's a bear. Now let it go." And, well, we did. Ellis led us out onto the site and on our way home not 10 minutes later. A year has passed, and I'm still not quite sure what happened during our night at the Dry River Shelter 3. The memory of seeing a single name written on the front page of the notebook is so crisp in my mind. I couldn't have mistaken it. Could I have mistaken the noises I heard and the new additions to the book? Ellis feels the same way about the whole scenario. What do you think? Or were we not welcomed by the New Hampshire wilderness?